delivered to me after I order it, and I have a helper. I cut the tape because I didn't have enough hands to record and cut the tape too. So it just came on my doorstep. This is about their food safety. I guess if you're not there when they deliver it, it's about when it's safe to freeze it. But this is basically what I get. So this is not everything that I get. Some of it I already have in the freezer, which I'll show you in a second. So this is my chuck roast. There's a bone in there. So I make this in the Instant Pot, and it'll last me for about a week, just myself eating it. So it is 3.74 pounds. It's a nice size piece of meat. And whenever I order my meat, I always ask them for well marbleized meat. I don't eat carbs. My body needs the fat for fuel. Your body either runs on fat or carbs. I don't eat carbs, so I need the fat. So this is actually a new thing for me. This is a pork chop, bone-in pork chop. Again, I asked for the extra fat. So I ordered 4 of these, almost a pound. I'm actually going to leave this one out to thaw because I'd like to eat that today. This is pork belly. I never really understood what pork belly was. 3 pounds of it. Basically, it is bacon that has not been cured. I wanted to avoid spices as much as possible until I figure out what I can tolerate. When I go to cook this, I'll explain more about it. This is another pork chop. Another pork chop. I think there's one more in there. Another pork chop. This time around with the ground beef, I'll probably just brown the ground beef. Last time I made ground beef, I had leftover fat and bone marrow from when I made homemade beef bone broth. So, but I have plenty of bone broth in my freezer, so I'm not doing that this time. Oh, I ordered 3 of them. Okay, so I got 3, and that's it. I place an order like this, sorry for my finger, 3 times a month. So that's, you know, how much that'll last. And then I put it in the freezer. Of course, we got some junk food in there because the rest of my family does not eat the way I do. So the other thing that I get from the ranch, this is pork fat for lard. It comes in a 5-pound bag, and then when I'm ready to when I'm ready to open this, I separate it out into little 1-pound sections. So when I'm ready to make lard, I pull this out of the freezer. I thaw it in the refrigerator, and I cut it up, and I'll show you that later. I don't eat this. This is regular beef. And of course, that's regular beef. I don't eat that. My family eats that. This is the other thing I get. This I get from Costco. So it's the sockeye salmon. This is wild caught because the wild caught is going to have more nutrients in it. So this is how I get my omega-3s since I can't have eggs or dairy. This is beef liver. It's about a pound of beef liver. I figured out that I can only have it twice a week. I was eating it every day, but the vitamin A was making me very nauseous. So I figured out that if I eat it only twice a week, I'm okay. So these are jars, frozen jars of bone broth. So the ranch, you can order beef bones or pork bones and make your own bone broth. This is my drawer. Everything I need is in here. These are cracklins from making lard. This is a jar of lard. So when I am done using up this lard, I'll make some more. I have a piece of salmon thawing out in here. The butter is not for me. The butter is actually for my husband. But what I'll do is I'll make him eggs in my pan because it's a non-stick pan. It's easier to cook in it. So I need gluten-free butter so I don't contaminate my pan. So that's why that's in here. These jars are bone broth. That one I just pulled out from the freezer this morning, so it's thawing. This one, I'll be drinking it later on today. It'll still be slightly frozen, but it'll be better than hard frozen. This is my container where I store the liver. Each bag of liver I get about 3 servings from. After I make 1 serving, I'll put the other 2 in here. It's a glass container because if I buy plastic containers, for me, they can end up getting used for gluten, and that will make me sick if I use them afterward. Glass is safest for me. Same with the cracklins. This is a little glass jar, and that's just the leftover cracklins from making the lard, and it's really nice to sprinkle that in my liver, and I'll show you that when I cook the liver. That is my supply of food for the next week and a half, 2 weeks. So today I'm going to be making my pot roast. I start with my lard, and I take a pretty generous scoop, so it's about good. Drop it in there, and I hit saute on my Instant Pot and wait for that to get hot. So if you take a look, there's a little water in there because I just washed the pot, but it's gonna take a little while to melt, but you can see it's already starting. Lard is actually a really excellent cooking oil, and it's just gonna melt. Once it's all melted, I'm gonna put some salt in there and the meat, and I'll be right back. You can see that the lard is melted. It's only on the edges, so what I do is I kind of move it around to make sure it covers all of the inside, and then I take my pink Himalayan salt. I use a grinder because if you get salt from the store, there's a risk of it being cross-contaminated with other spices, which would cause problems. I already know from 10 years experience with gluten, cross-contamination is a big deal. So this is what I use, and I just, careful. That's the only problem, is it's really poppy. So you just put lots and lots of salt in there. Alright. And now, go ahead and cut open the package for my roast. This one is a little long, so hopefully it will fit okay. But before I take it out, I have to wash my hands and dry them with a paper towel so that I don't cross-contaminate anything that I am touching.
Intermission.
Washed and dry with a paper towel. And I'm going to say this now before I put the meat in, because it's going to be loud. Once the meat is in, you set the timer for 10 minutes. This is the saute feature. So what we're doing is we're browning the outside of the meat to get some really nice flavoring into the meat. And this is all that's in it. I don't put anything else in it. No other spices or anything like that. Just salt and pork fat. Alright. There we go. So it actually fit in there okay. I just had to kind of fold the end a little bit. So we're going to brown that for 10 minutes and we'll come back. Alright, so I'm ready. Very close, it's loud. I'm ready to flip my meat. So before I do, I'm going to salt this side before I flip it. I don't use tongs or anything special. It's a nice and flat. And then I like to kind of swirl the pork fat a little bit so that it covers all of the meat. And I'm going to set the timer for another 10 minutes. I'll be back. I'm done with the saute, so you can still hear it going. So now I'm ready to just pressure cook it, and I'm going to add a little over 2 cups of water. There's no, like, I just fill it up and pop it in there. Let me do that. And that quiets things down. And what the water will do is, it's part of the pressure cooking, but it also gives me some bone broth when the meat's done. So what I do is, because the saute is ended, so I hit cancel and then pressure cook. So I do the normal high, and it's set for 45 minutes. In there, and then I just wait. Also, to make a note of the fact that I eat everything that's in the pot, except for the bone. That's it. I eat the fat. If there's gristle, if there's a little cartilage, I eat that too. The gristle and cartilage is actually really great for collagen. So because I've been having issues with my hair falling out from COVID, it's stopped falling out. Hopefully it'll start coming back in. It's getting a little thicker, but I think that has to do with eating the collagen from the beef. It's a better way instead of supplements. It's more bioavailable. That's my pot roast. I let the pressure release naturally. But I had errands to run, so it's been done for almost an hour now. So go ahead and open it up. Careful, it's steamy hot. And if you come here, you can see the meat has actually fallen off the bone. I love cooking in the Instant Pot because it makes everything so nice and tender. All right, so the first thing we do is, if we can get the meat or the bone out, we'll go ahead and just do that. There it is. And I just take it and carry it over the garbage can and throw it away. All right, and now I'm just left with a big hunk of meat. And I do see some nice cartilage on there. So nice good collagen for my hair and skin. And I'm gonna cut it in kind of smaller portions, small-ish portions. Plenty of good fat. And I carry this over and I put it on the dinner plate. Over here. I will put this piece on the dinner plate, and then the last piece I'm going to put on a separate plate. This is my dinner plate. I don't need anything bigger than this. So I take my scale, I put the plate on, make sure it's not against anything, turn it on, so it's 0. Put my meat on, and it is 6.5 ounces, and that's a good meal for me. I'll eat that maybe once a day, maybe twice a day, depending on the day. Usually just once a day. And what I'll do is I will write this down in my journal. I'll write down the weight, what it is, and then in my journal I will also write down any other symptoms I'm experiencing, if I have extra pain, what I'm doing for the day, if I have to take a nap, that sort of thing. I have all this great broth. Lots of good. This is where all of the pork fat and other nutrients from the beef are. And so I just ladle that into a couple of mason jars. I get usually about 2 jars. I usually don't get 3. And so what I'll do is any leftover broth, I'll just drink it while it's fresh, like right after I'm done eating the meat. I'll drink the rest of the broth. And I go ahead and fill it up all the way as full as, almost to the top. If I were to freeze it, I would not fill it up so much. When I'm doing bone broth, I make a lot, and so I freeze them. And you don't want to fill it all the way to the top when you're freezing it. And let's see. It's about as full to the top as I can. Got a little bit left, and I think I'll just, if you come and see, I'll just drink this after I'm done eating the meat that I portioned out for myself. And then I'll cover this and keep it in the fridge, and I will eat that over the course of the next several days. And I don't get tired of it. People might think, well, are you bored eating the same thing over and over again? But when it's meat, you don't really have to be adventurous in your eating. It's what your body's craving anyway. You don't really get tired of eating meat all the time. Okay, so today I am making liver. I have my package of liver from the farm, so grass-fed beef, fully grass-fed. This is about a pound of liver and a little less, but this will last me 3 servings. So what I do is I set my stove to a 5 so that I don't cook it too high. And then I put in, this is my lard. It's almost empty. I'm going to have to make some more, and I will show you how I make my lard. So I take a big scoop, pop it in there, let it melt. And this is the last of my pork cracklings. So when I make lard, this is the cracklings that are left over. And so I'm just going to use the rest of these. I'm going to put them, I don't put them in the same place where I cook the liver. I tend to put it up here where it doesn't cook so much. And I get every little bit of that good fat out of there as I can. For this, I just need a knife to get the rest of the cracklings off the spoon. So I'm done with my spoon. It goes in the sink. And then, while that is cooking, I go ahead and I open up my liver. Are you backing away because you don't like liver? Grab a fork. And since I only use 1/3 of this at a time, I just put it in a container. So this is a glass container, because in my house, there's a lot of cross-contamination that happens. Plastic will hold gluten. And if I use a plastic container that my family has used for gluten, it will make me sick. So I have the glass ones for myself. It doesn't matter what goes in here. It won't make me sick because it won't hold the gluten. I'll just put them all in here for now. Of course, I'm going to take some out when my pan is ready. And that's it. Sometimes there's little pieces at the bottom. So I'm just going to dump that later. And my pork fat is almost melted. So I am going to take my Himalayan salt. Like I said before, there's no cross-contamination of different spices. as you would get with regular store salt. So put a generous amount of salt in here. Get the cracked ones too. It may seem like I oversalt my food, but I don't eat prepackaged food anymore, which has a lot of sodium. And if I don't get enough salt, then I start getting fainting spells. I've had fainting spells this last month because of the lymphocytic colitis. It's really hard for my body to absorb salt. So the more salt, the better. All right, so now I am ready to put my liver in. One. Let's see if I can get another. That's kind of a small one. Let's see if I can get another small one. This is another small one. Smallish. So the last two in here are kind of big, so they'll be meals on their own. And then I do some extra salting. And this is a part that always makes me kind of giggle because I feel like I'm cooking giant leeches. But it's probably best not to think of that. So I'm just going to let them cook. They're going to get, you really want to try not to overcook your liver because then it gets really tough and not quite as tasty. It took me a while to get used to liver. I didn't like it in the beginning, but now, after having it a few times, I got used to the flavor, and it's really not that bad. But I still definitely do not like pork liver or chicken liver. It's like fish bait. So the beef liver is the best, and it has tons and tons of nutrients. I will link in the description box about the myth that liver stores toxins or is a filter. It doesn't do that. There's nothing harmful in liver, and the saturated fats are the good fats that you find in liver, and it's chock full of tons of vitamins and nutrients that your body needs. So it's a really, really good organ meat to eat. It's the superfood of superfoods. So it's very important to eat more organ meats that nose to tail eating that you do is what's going to give you all the nutrients without having to take supplements. So when this is ready to turn, I will meet you back. I'm about ready to turn, and if you want to come in and see, you can see it's starting to get kind of gray on the edge, so it's right about the time to turn. And one thing I forgot to say before, I'm using a stainless steel pan. I used to use a non-stick pan, but I read the Carnivore Code by Paul Saladino, and he says that a lot of the toxins, like the chemicals from the non-stick, can leach into your food. And I already know from experience, when I went gluten-free 10 years ago, I had to completely change out my cookware because it was still making me sick because it had been used for gluten. The non-stick, it will hold gluten. Fortunately, with stainless steel, it will not hold gluten, so you can cook anything in here. It's a little rougher to clean, and it's a lot heavier of a pan, so it's harder for me to clean because I don't have a lot of body strength to clean it. But I do it, I manage it, and using Barkeeper's Friend is a really good way to clean stainless steel and get all of the little bits off that regular soap struggles with. So I'm going to let this side cook a little bit, and I'll meet you back in a bit. I'm ready to take my liver off the pan. I already have my plate on my scale, so it's at 0. Total cooking, it was about, I want to say 4 minutes on the first side and 3 minutes on the second side, so it doesn't take too long. And just go ahead and put that on my plate. By the way, this is my first meal of the day, and it is 3:30. I didn't realize it was so late. And then I scrape everything out as best I can, get all the salts and oils out, and pour it over the top. And this is the hard part because the pan is so heavy, I struggle to lift it. So that is my one meal for the day. It's really late today, so I'm not going to eat anything else. I might have some beef broth later. It has a little fat in it for if I get hungry, but it's mostly broth, and that'll give me the extra salt that I need as well. So this is 5.7 ounces with the pork fat and the cracklins and the liver and everything. And that's it. That's one meal for today. Alright, so I've let the pressure release naturally. So, is it recording? I didn't hear it.
As you can see, we have the cook cleaning in her natural habitat. Bubbles. More bubbles. Why liver?